Tim, you are now on the clock. I know you've done a 7-round mock draft. With the 44th pick, who do the Cleveland Browns select in your mock draft?
44th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, I had the Cleveland Browns selecting George Pickens, wide receiver out of Georgia. Now, this was a mock I did about a week or so ago, so Pickens could potentially go earlier than 44, but I think there's a lot to love about Pickens, as I was talking about earlier. I think he's got a pro-ready frame at 6'3", kind of gives you the size that you only really get with Donovan Peoples-Jones. Ran very well at the combine. I think some of his numbers were limited in the first 2 seasons because of injuries and the fact that Georgia's passing game has had some issues prior to this season. But, he played well coming off the torn ACL, especially making a few big catches. I know he didn't have a lot of big numbers in 2021, but the impact plays he made that season, particularly that huge catch he made against Alabama in the national championship game, shows you the kind of ability he has. I talked about the incredibly low drop rate that he has. He's just got sure hands, and I think he'd be a great fit for really any team who's looking for a good perimeter receiver like the Browns probably are.
All right, so Pickens is a guy that was out at the combine, and you mentioned he ran pretty well, also met with the media. Here's what he says teams are getting in him when they draft him.
Most definitely my speed. A lot of people don't think I'm that fast, so I just want to show everybody that I'm really the guy that you see on film. Really big receivers are big on big, powerful, stuff like that, and I really pride myself on being creative, so not so much power and just finesse.
And again, big frame, some speed, some agility. Those are attributes that could move him up past 44.
Certainly, no question about it. You see also, like we talked about Christian Watson earlier, he moves up a little bit. I don't know if Pickens necessarily is going to be in the first round, but I feel like he's starting to be a guy that you may have to move up to get, especially, he talked about his speed. It's a 4.47 40 at 6'3", 195 pounds, really good. But also sticks out 10-yard split, 1.5 seconds, and a broad jump of about 10 feet, 5 inches. That tells you he's got explosiveness, that he can get off the line of scrimmage and make some good things happen. So there's plenty of good that comes with the athletic skill set of George Pickens.
All right, so then in the 3rd round, you have him going edge rusher, the other area that is needed to be addressed. And you got Drake Jackson from USC. What do you like about him? You see 6'2" and a half, 254. What do you like about Jackson?
I like, his physical build, that he's got plenty of great athletic tools to work with. He's got length, which you need at a defensive end. He's got plenty of good tools. His stats may not be elite, but I think, part of that goes to, kind of some up and down things going on with USC throughout his career. But Jackson is a guy that sticks out. He fits those 2 trends that I was talking about earlier, age and big school, and he's got some good numbers. I think if you're drafting an edge in the 3rd round, like I had the Browns doing here, I basically said it's kind of a situation where if you expect Jadeveon Clowney to sign, if he is signed by the draft, then maybe you go for a guy who maybe needs a little more seasoning, like Drake Jackson does, but he's got a lot of fun tools to work with.
Then supplementary pick in the 3rd round, which is 99, so it's actually between the 3rd and 4th. You go safety. What do you like about Cross?
Nick Cross, he's been a guy that's flown up draft boards, since, what he did at the combine. Obviously, you look at that, a 4.36 40, a broad jump of almost 11 feet, put up very good numbers in Maryland. This was a pretty highly touted prospect when he came out of high school. I think he's a guy right now, if he slid to 99, it'd be kind of lucky if he does, because, he also ran a 3-cone time, I think, of sub 6'9", which shows he's got a lot of agility to work with. Again, a young player, and with young players, still room to develop. He's got great range already, and I think if the Browns are going to go for another safety, you would want to target a guy who's more of a center field safety. Not to say Cross can't be physical. He can hit. He's a very good tackler. He hits with some authority, but with the way Joe Woods wants to play defense, if he wants to go 3 safeties, especially if they don't bring back Ronnie Harrison, if they want to have competition with if you want to have someone compete with Richard LeCount for that third starting job, maybe Cross gets into that range. And again, that deep center field range is something I think they should be looking for in a safety if that's where they want to go.
You go offensive line in the fourth round with Rasheed Walker from Penn State. A little bit about him, and then we're going to get you got him drafting a kicker. We'll get to him, but tell me what you like about Walker from Penn State.
Well, I know there could be some people saying, well, why are you taking an offensive line? The line said, and it's kind of my number one draft rule. No matter what, you pick an offensive lineman, you just do it. And that's where I think Rasheed Walker falls into place for me. Again, falls with the theme I've been talking about all day. Younger player, another highly touted prospect out of Penn State. He's got some very good tools to work with. I think at this point in the draft, when you're looking at fourth rounders, you're looking at tools. You're not necessarily looking at production. You know, you can look at either athletic tools or production. You're usually only going to get one or the other at this spot. The top of the draft are basically both, but you know, by this point, you're going to have to kind of pick and choose. So I'm going with the tools player who's got size. He can move. It's just, I think he's got, you know, another swing tackle potential. And you may have to prepare for life without Jack Conklin at the end of his contract, especially if you're not sure about the future of James Hudson at tackle. You just keep adding bodies to that offensive line with a guy like Rasheed Walker.
Yeah, I'm with you. As soon as offensive linemen are like pitchers in baseball. When you think you got enough, you go get a couple more. And if you don't believe that, look at last year when the Browns were starting their fourth and fifth tackles at times. All right, now here's the kicker. You go with Cade York from LSU. What do you think of him? What do you like about him? How important? Why would you be willing to take a draft pick on Cade York?
His leg is massive. And I mean, you look at what it says on the screen, 15 of 19 from 50 plus in his career. And, you know, struggled a little bit, you know, coming into LSU right away. But as his career continued, you know, he got better. He got more consistent. And the game that sticks out to me, I think it was a 57-yarder that he hit in Florida. It was in the fog. It was the same game where Marco Wilson from Florida got the 15-yard penalty for throwing the shoe in the final minutes that helped kind of set Cade York up for that field goal. But, you know, he's got a monster leg. And I think if you're going to compete in this division with the kickers that are in this division, Evan McPherson in Cincinnati, Justin Tucker in Baltimore, to a lesser extent than those two, Chris Boswell from Pittsburgh, you got to have a kicker who you know can deliver. And I know Browns fans are, you know, might be saying, well, why would you draft a kicker? They've already drafted two kickers. Well, you keep taking until you find them, because it's not just drafting kickers, drafting the right kicker. They took shots on Zane Gonzalez and Austin Cyber in the last 5 drafts. Those didn't work. You just keep taking chances, and if you get that kicker, you just keep him for as long as you can and hope, and especially if you can get another guy who's been as reliable as Phil Dawson was back at the beginning of the expansion era Browns. If you can find that guy, you get him. And I think Cade York is the best kicker in this draft and a guy who can certainly do those things.
I'm with you. As you get better and better as a team, games are going to come down to field goals in the playoffs and those kind of things. So I'm with you with Cade York.